Prior to the game between the Nottingham Panthers and the Belfast Giants on Sunday the 1st of February, the respective podcast teams of Whiskers TV and A View from the Bridge got together to do a live pre-game show at the Bunkers Hill Inn, and our special guest was Panthers legend and former Giants coach Paul Adey. Here's what's transpired.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Better than that. Come on. Hello, everybody. That's better.
Come on, we won.
Come on, we lost. Guys, welcome to a very special joint venture between ourselves at A View from the Bridge and Jono at the Whiskers.
Yeah, I had this idea. Well, it wasn't an idea. We had the idea a while ago, but we put it together in about a week. So from nothing to this in about a week. So big thank you to the Bunkers Hill for allowing us to have the room for nothing and put this on. So big round of applause to Bunkers Hill, please.
Thanks to you guys for turning up. We're going to have a usual sort of bit of a chat, our usual in-name nonsense. If you've listened to the show, you know exactly what you're going to get. We're also going to be having Paul Adey join us on stage for a bit of a chat. That's the Grand Slam champion for the Sheffield Steelers, champion with the Belfast Giants, and a Benson and Hedge Cup winner with the Nottingham Panthers.
We tied shit, mate. We tied shit.
We're not going to be on our own. I think we'll start by introducing our comrades in arms.
We will indeed. So, could you please welcome to the stage my colleagues from Whiskers TV, Aaron Lord and Andy Haywood.
And from A View from the Bridge, Mr. David McGimsey and TV's own Neil the Coach Russell.
Okay, before we begin, Davey, I believe you've got an announcement.
Never like someone from Northern Ireland to be looking at money, but our good friend at Sheffield, Dave Sims, is doing a walk for the Western Park Cancer Charity as a young Steelers fan, getting a lot of treatment there for cancer. So with this lovely game-worn Colin Shields GB jersey, we're selling tickets for it for £2. All the money is going to the Western Park Cancer Hospital, so anybody wants a ticket, we'll be doing the draw in about a month. With almost £200 raised, so if we're going to put our hands in our pockets, if you've got £2 out there, come and get a ticket off us. So that's it.
A really great charity, really well worth putting in for. It's not often I praise Dave Sims, but that's true. But fair play to him. He's doing a lot of hard work, walking from Birmingham to Sheffield.
Not as bad as Dean Woolley in the support vehicle, though. I mean, that. Okay, shall we...
Go for it, man.
Yep, so we're going to talk a little bit about last night's game, which I'm sure half of you are quite happy about and the other half not so happy. So, guys, from a Giants point of view, and considering the other results that took place in the Elite League last night, a point wasn't too bad, really.
Yeah, I thought the Belfast Giants played for the first time in a while, certainly from the Sheffield doubleheader at the Odyssey, Jono, played a full 60 minutes. Thought we came out and just played very well. So I thought, from a Belfast perspective, our passing in the opening stages wasn't great. But as the second period and the third period went along, I think the Belfast Giants started to come more and more into the game. I think the thing that stood out for me was Corey's post-match comments, where he basically said, we weren't overly good tonight, but the Belfast Giants were probably the better team over the course of the 60 minutes. But I think overall, Steve Thorne will be happy getting away with the point out of the NIC.
So, David, did you get to watch it on the webcam?
I was here. I got here with about half an hour to go in the game. Giants were winning 2-1. As coach says, I just thought defensively last night would turn the puck over just a wee bit too easy at times, and that allowed the usually get their forecheck set up and just get his pen back a wee bit there. It was a very good game of hockey to watch. Never easy to come to the NIC. Always a good place to take any sort of point out. I suppose at this stage of the season where we're in that point where we can go one or two ways. You have to come to this building and try and get 2 points. And I suppose to take 1 point away in the shootout loss is tough to take, but if we can turn this into a 3-point weekend, that's 3 times this season we've came to NIC, 3 times we've taken points away. So I'm sure the coach at the start of the season sits down and picks where he thinks he might win, points where he thinks he won't, and 3 points so far in the NIC, that's a good enough return.
Andy, taking on that point from what Corey Nielsen said yesterday, and the fact that the Nottingham Panthers he felt didn't play a good game, do you agree with that? Do you think that Nottingham probably should have taken that game in regulation, or do you think that the Giants were well worth taking it all the way to penalty shots?
I thought that it was a decent game, and I kind of agree with what Corey said. I thought probably the better team ended up with just the 1 point last night. The energy line of Keith and Lloyd and Garside last night was superb, and the amount of times that they created turnovers in our own zone, and we struggled to clear the puck and get it over the blue line was not great from a Panthers perspective. I thought along that one team would get 3 points this weekend and the other would get 4, and I think either side probably would have been happy with a 3-point return this weekend. So from Belfast's perspective, it's a good point, but one that they perhaps can feel like they perhaps could have won the game. From a Panthers perspective, I think that we started pretty slowly. Again, much like the Braid game the week before, where we were penned in a fair bit, and we got the goal and kicked on from there. But I think tonight we'll want to really set the pace and take it to Belfast tonight.
Aaron, have you got your ticket for tonight? Have you been queuing for 12 hours for it? Seriously though, mate, your take on last night.
It's always a pleasure to see you, Paddy. I don't think it was the greatest game of hockey from a Panthers point of view. One thing I would say about Belfast is they seem to be the Belfast that I expect, and that's intensity, finishing the checks, forechecking well. That's what I associate with the Giants, and I don't think we've seen that really a lot this season. I think, to be honest, Belfast can feel aggrieved. I think one thing from a Panthers point of view, we might not have the most skilled Panthers team that we've seen, in previous years, but this team just doesn't give up. It plays until the whistle blows at the end, and that has given us so many extra points this season. And yesterday was another of those occasions where we didn't play well, but we managed to get the 2 points. And at the end of the day, that's what I'll say in the records. So it's good in that aspect, and I just think today is makes it even more. It's big today, because if Giants get the win, it's 3 points for them and 2 for us. So it can easily change very, very quickly. So last night was great, but we've got to do it again today. One
of the things you said this week on Cat's Whiskers was the fact that Belfast holds no fear. For you as a Nottingham fan, given the fact that Giants were in last night, that must still ring true if you feel that Nottingham weren't at their game and Belfast just were maybe a little step above.
I think it's not the Belfast Giants of last year. Last year there was a team to be really feared, and it's strange because you've still got pretty much the same team as you had last season. But this year, I don't know, you just don't seem to have a spark about you like you did last year. So every time you come here, and I think it said in the 4-0 victory we had last week at the Odyssey, where we pretty much ran the show, got the 4-0 victory.
And you know what?
That was
when Jono actually started talking, I thought to myself, coaches coming in here, coaches going in here.
So yeah, to answer your question, no, I don't think Belfast hold anything for us to fear at the moment. Whether that will change with any personnel changes, I don't know.
I agree completely with you. I think, and Paul will probably back this up, I think 2 players that we're massively missing this season. One, we lost to you guys, number 68. What a player. What a player.
Who?
We massively, right, Michael Barr. We massively miss him. I mean, one thing that I've seen from our team this year, we're lacking that inventiveness, that creativity, and that's something that Kevin Surratt was on the Giants Live commentary with me last week, and he said exactly the same. Chris Higgins, and I'm sure Paul will talk about it, he's a game changer. He might not be the best back checker in the league, though I did see him against Braehead last week for you guys, save Kowalski's ass and set up a stretch pass for the Panthers to go up and score. But he's inventive, he makes things happen out of nothing, and that for me is something that the Belfast Giants are really lacking this year. The other guy that that moved on back to Germany was Dustin Wycotton. For me, he was our MVP last season. We massively miss him. He was an incredible two-way forward. One of those guys that you don't necessarily... He put up points. He put up a lot of points for us last season, but he's one of those players that just does the dirty things, gets a stick in passing lanes, gets in shooting lanes, all the rest. He just does the simple things really, really well. And for me, we're missing him massively this season.
With regards to you guys and the difference between this season and last season for you, like, I know the conversation goes on about whether Braehead are in a position that they're going to run away with the league, they're going to take the league, or whether they're our hard championship team. And I know we've got people, Jacko in the corner believes that Braehead are going to choke. Right.
I'm with Jacko, actually.
Yeah, well, that's it. I'll come back to yourself, Andrew, as well. You were the one of the ones that said it's definitely going to be the case. Do you still believe that the Nottingham Panthers, with the changes they've made, especially most recently with the likes of Doucette coming in and Kobe Cohen coming in, that they've now got a strong enough team to overhaul the Clan, who, let's be fair, have an easier running?
They do. I was just talking to the coach outside.
Which coach?
You know,
this coach?
I know, yeah. Yeah, the fake one, you know. Yeah. Alright, I spoke to TV's Neil Russell.
Is that his indoor scarf?
Well, I actually wore this scarf in honour of Coach, and I'm a little bit disappointed that he's A, not tanned, and B, not wearing a scarf.
Is it true you were so hungover you couldn't make your appointment at Fantastic this morning?
Yes. Anyway, moving on. For me, I was just, like I say, Braehead, yes, they're in the best, they've got the opportunity with their conference games coming up, etc., but it's different actually getting over the line and winning that championship. If you look at a Panthers, a Belfast, a Sheffield, they've been there, done it. They've won a league, and it's just but Braehead haven't, and Ryan Finity hasn't. So it's very different actually being in the best position, but getting over that line, I think, is maybe tougher than what people think. From a Panthers point of view, I firmly believe that we are in with a shot. I think we have a great opportunity, especially that we brought in Doucette and Colby Cohen. It adds something to our roster that we didn't have, especially in Doucette. I think from a D point of view, we've always been strong this season, but we were missing that that goal scorer, that sniper, somebody that would be able to put the puck in the net. So I'm confident that we will give it the best shot, and I still think we've got a great opportunity, but realistically it is kind of Braehead's to lose.
Guys, looking at Giants' own title aspirations, do you think... Coach, do you think that you still got a chance of winning the title, or do you think there is too much to do considering the other teams' runnings?
My heart tells me yes, my head tells me no. 2 points is massive today for the Belfast Giants. Massive weekend next weekend. Cardiff at home on Friday night and away to Braehead on Saturday night. I think the next 3 games will determine whether or not we have a sniff at retaining the Monteith Bowl. You were talking there about changes made. Corey identified an area. You guys needed a sniper. Brings in Guy Doucette. You brought back in Colby Cohen, who I thought during your Champions Hockey League games, I thought he was one of your worst defenders, and he has been superb for you guys. He was a standout player last week at the Odyssey. I thought he was the standout player on the ice last night across both teams. I thought he was absolutely superb. You guys and then Sheffield, they have made changes. They have identified areas that they need to change. For me, it's been all too apparent where our weaknesses this season lie, and we haven't gone about being proactive and actually making those changes. We may well make a change over the next week or two, or next couple of weeks before the transfer deadline, but to me it might be a little bit too late.
Of course, Cutchin only got, what was it, I think about 6 seconds of ice time last night that you said, Paddy?
It was about one shift. It was very noticeable Steve Thornton's comments post-game when asked a question about the fact that Mark McCutcheon was made the 10th forward. The lines have been changed. Compton's been moved off the line with Keith and Lloyd, and been moved on the line with Chevry and Sawada, pushing Garside back onto that line that worked so well over the last number of seasons. But also it's putting McCutcheon down as a 10th forward, and the only time he saw ice was on a delayed penalty, and I think he skated around, skated off. When asked the question on the record with Steve Thornton about that and about his limited ice time, he just merely said, yeah.
I'll pose the question to you guys then, is he on borrowed time?
Just what the coach said, yes. I think that it's sending a big message to him, sending a message to the rest of the roster that it doesn't matter who you are, what your circumstances are in Belfast. The guy's here he's doing an MBA in Belfast, and he must be under a lot of pressure himself now, feeling he's so no ice time. It's very, very tricky to talk about when we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Obviously there's lots of things going on at a hockey club. The reasons for Mark McCutcheon being benched last night are unclear, but obviously with still players coming back in, Kevin Surratt could be a big plus for us in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully he can get back on the ice. Stephen Murphy maybe back in the next month or so, and we're going to be a lot stronger going into the playoff stretch. But to answer your question, Per, I think this next 3 games are the key point in our season. We can get right back into the chase this weekend, or could be good night-nurse.
Just to quickly probably finish this section, one player who divides opinion a bit, Kevin Westgarth.
Get comfortable.
Coach is looking at me here like he's going to snatch the microphone off me. But
so I've seen, I think, 4 games now with Westgarth included, and for someone who came from the NHL, just doesn't seem to stand out whatsoever. And I've got to be honest, I think he looks like he's on a bit of a holiday.
he picked a good place to come to holiday, to be fair. Northern Ireland's a beautiful country. Anybody that hasn't been should definitely come over and see it.
From the man who moved to Bristol.
Bristol's lovely too, but Northern Ireland's nicer. For me, Kevin Westgarth has to be playing with some sort of injury, because he's not playing the style of game he played in North America. He's just, coach will bang his drum here about physicality in 30 seconds, so just give me 1 wee minute. Kevin Westgarth has to play that physical game. It's the game he's played his whole career. It's the game that got him to where he got in his career, got him to the show. Yes, he was dropping down, he wasn't getting an NHL contract, and we have picked a player up direct from the NHL, and to come to the IHL, he should be bossing games, and he's not putting himself about. The amount of times last night, with power play situation in the third period, Kowalski to the left, that'll be right, last period, where he can go and stand in the crease, get his arse into Kowalski's face, and he just sort of, he just stays on the perimeter. He just doesn't get involved in any sort of physical play at all. It's just like, for me, coach, I'll leave coach's punchline here for him, but he really has to get involved in games more, and just not on a forecheck, on a back check. He just doesn't do all the little simple things in the games that he could.
I'll just wrap it up.
Comfortable.
Westgarth for me, I've said it quite a bit on the podcast. I mean, he's just not doing what Steve Thornton will have expected in bringing him in. I actually feel a bit sorry for Thorts in that regard, because he has brought a guy who's, as Davey says, straight out of the NHL. Last 7 seasons played there in the show. Stanley Cup winner, played in Calgary, LA Kings, Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, this guy is season in, season out pro in the show, and he's come in for us, and he's just, like, for me, it's a 40% effort that we're getting from him night in, night out. And whenever you bring somebody like that into that calibre, if I was him, I'd be a bit embarrassed at some of the performances that have been put in. A note in one of his interviews this week on BBC Sport Northern Ireland, he actually came out and basically said, I know my performances have not been anywhere near to the standard that they need to be. I thought he was a good bit better last night. Still didn't have much of an impact on the game, but I thought he was that wee bit more physical. But I mean, whenever you bring somebody like that in, you need them to be finishing their checks. You need to have them intimidating guys. Defenders checking over their shoulders whenever they're going into the corners to retrieve those pucks. And defenders just ain't afraid of him, and it absolutely kills me on our power play. He should be, as Davey said, right in front, taking the eyes away from Kowalski night in, night out, whoever we're playing. He just doesn't do it. And Steve has mentioned it quite a bit in some of the post-game interviews about some of our guys who should be crashing nets and taking the eyes away from the goalie. We're actually on the perimeter and cycling around behind the net. Not good enough at the minute for me.
But our power play is still
pop in the stats.
What about you, Tim?
I think on that note, we've been rabbiting on here for a bit. We should bring up somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the reigning Elite League champion coach, Mr. Paul Adey. Welcome to Nottingham. Have you been here before?
Just a few times.
No.
Yeah. Paul, a question I've always wanted to ask you, and now I've finally got the opportunity. I want to take you back about 18 years, actually.
18 years,
18 years
okay. If I can remember that.
To the old barn. I think we're playing a game against the Newcastle Cobras, so it is a while ago.
Yeah.
Chris Norton has the puck, and you smash your stick over the back of his helmet, and your stick snaps in two.
Did I actually do that?
You actually did that.
I forgot that.
Norton turns around, ready to drop the glove, sees it's you, stops in his tracks, the stadium goes silent, and the referee's almost apologetic, sending you off. What was going through your mind?
I honestly...
I know it's a long time ago, but I've just been dying to ask that question.
I actually don't remember the incident. I really don't. Sometimes in a game, your emotions get the better of you, and you just react to something in front of you. And it's very rare that I actually hit somebody with my stick. I remember hitting Frank Morris once in the back with my stick because he had speared me or something. And so there's only a few guys in my career that I actually used my stick on. But to be honest, I don't remember that incident. And no, I mean, I guess I should apologize if I got him in the head with my stick, right? I don't know if I broke my stick or not. I can't remember.
It did, it snapped in two.
Did it?
Top of his helmet.
Yeah, not one of my better moments.
Steve Thornton once did that to Andre Payet up in Newcastle. I remember very well. Well, Payet deserved it. Bringing it more modern days, Paul. Let's look at your former team, the Belfast Giants. And looking at the game last night and the way that the league's going, what's your view on where the Belfast Giants have come? Because you took the title last year. Then we came into here, and unfortunately we had two poor outings with regards to the second leg of the Challenge Cup final and the playoff final, which we lost to the Sheffield Steelers in overtime. We've come back in, the Belfast Giants don't seem to be that same team, despite having most of the same players. Why do you think that is?
It's hard to say. I'm not there every day with the team, but they're still with a chance. They still have a chance to win the league, so I don't think you can complain too much. Yeah, I mean, you're right in saying that there were some key players who left, in Higgins and Whitecotton and Svez also, because he had 13 game-winning goals last year for us, so he's a big miss also. But the replacements are good. I mean, there's quality players have come in, plus you have an extra guy on top of what we had last year, if you do the numbers on that. So really, Belfast should be contending, there's no question about that, and I think they are. The problem is there's a lot of competition right now. There's 5 teams still with a chance to win the league. It's nothing guaranteed at the moment. You're right in saying Braehead are in the strongest position, but Braehead hasn't won a trophy yet. Like you said, you're absolutely right. Whereas Nottingham, Sheffield, Belfast have all won trophies. They've been there before. You would think that one of those 3 teams will win the league championship. So it's really, Braehead have the easier schedule, but they're still going to play against some teams that are desperate to make the playoffs, so it's not going to be that easy for them. So there's still some tough games ahead for everyone.
So, Paul, as Paddy says, you're the current Elite League champion coach. You've had a few offers, I believe, this season, so what's the future for you at the moment?
Well, I'm not sure at the moment. I mean, obviously I've been talking to agents and stuff and the possibility of going back to Europe, but I've been enjoying my TV work with Knots TV. We've been getting a lot of views on the show there, and also with Premier Sports, working with Neil and Murph, and so I've enjoyed that experience, and so we'll see what happens in the future. It's nice to stay involved with the game, because that's what I love, and so we'll see next year what happens.
Would you prefer something on the continent, or if the opportunity arises, would you prefer to stay in the Elite League?
I'd probably prefer to stay closer to home, because then I get to see the family more. Of course, when you have kids and a family, you got to make a living, and so whatever the best offer is normally what you'll take.
Got to ask you about it. It's something that I'm going to take this off from Davey because Davey could completely lose the rag here. I've got to ask you about an infamous night, the 26th of October 2002. A night that started the most one-sided rivalry in the history of ice hockey. The infamous Barry Nycar night. You were behind the bench for the Nottingham Panthers that night. What's your retake on the events of that evening?
Well, you're obviously talking about the brawl in Belfast. Yeah, I remember the press wouldn't talk to me for a few months after that brawl in Belfast there. I went to do a press conference and they wouldn't ask me any questions, so they obviously thought I had something to do with it. But the honest truth was, when the buzzer went, I think it was Tauber and Schulte were messing about in the corner and a fight broke out. So the players had already left the bench. There was no chance of me getting the guys back. And before I knew it, you know what Nikes was like. He was always ready for a fight. And he had his shirt off by the middle of the. By the time I got to the middle of the ice, he had his shirt off, and he was ready to go look for a fight. So, but no one would fight him. So I think that's why he got frustrated and threw some punches he shouldn't have. And but that, you know, like I said, the emotions of the game sometimes get the better of you. And yeah, it took a while for I think some people in Belfast to forgive me for that one. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, Todd said last year at the end of the year that everyone forgave me because we won the championship. So
that's right.
Hopefully that's the case. But
Apart from this.
It's not exactly the case.
That's what a stick. You'll bring a stick over the back of your head.
We'll not talk about that in 20 years, gentlemen.
Just one question. Obviously, from a Panthers point of view, there's been talked about like the lack of toughness, and you know we haven't got an enforcer as such. And obviously, you know, Belfast have brought in Westgarth. You've got Keith. You know, you've got that toughness. Do you think that the style of the game is changing, so the lack of, you know, an enforcer is not actually needed, or do you think there is that role still in elite league hockey?
well, it's a tough one. I mean, it's probably better that everybody that you have can play. I don't think bringing a tough guy in who can't play, that doesn't make any sense to me. But Westgarth, you know, he can play. He's not a bad player. I think maybe what he's missing is some direction. And sometimes what happens when guys come in from the NHL or top players from the AHL, you kind of just take it for granted that they're going to know what to do automatically, but that's not always the case. I mean, a lot of these guys have been role players in those leagues, and they do need direction. So maybe Westgarth, what he needs is someone just telling him directly, hey, this is what I want you to do every night. And maybe he'll go out and do that. Who knows? But he's still, last night I looked at it, anytime anything happened, Westgarth was there, and let me tell you, nobody wants to mess with him. The word around the league is, let him sleep all night. Don't hit him, don't fight him, just leave him alone, and he's not going to play his best hockey. So it's up to really Westgarth to bring that out of himself in a game. But that comes also down to the message he's getting also. So you can't always just blame the player or blame the coach. Or it's always a team game. And even sometimes your teammates, I mean, I remember Jeffrey Swez last year for us. He wasn't afraid to tell his teammates if he thought something wasn't right. And maybe that's what the Giants are missing a little bit this year, is that guy who's not afraid to, you know, voice his opinion to his teammates.
It's funny that we're going to have a few questions from the audience, and I've got one more myself. But you say about Westgarth and about let him sleep. One thing that we've chatted about quite a bit as well is the fact that Westgarth doesn't seem to have that nasty streak. He doesn't seem to have that. You know, he seems to be too nice a guy. For a guy who's basically made a career out of throwing his fists in the NHL, he seems to be a guy who's also got a very calm persona. But maybe, like you say, if you leave him alone, he just won't play the game that we're all expecting.
Well, you know, and sometimes guys, when they're not kept around the NHL or the AHL, it's because maybe they don't want to be fighting every night. It's not the best job, and at some point some of these guys get fed up of doing it, and maybe that could be the issue for him. But he can play good enough hockey to play in this league, and you're right, you know, with his size, getting to the net is probably the most important thing he could do for his team right now, especially on the power play. But to say he should be here just to go out and fight every night, I don't know if I agree with that. I'd rather see him play hockey and get in there for his teammates when he needs it, because we don't really want a goon league. We don't want guys coming here just to fight. I don't think that's the best thing. I don't think it's the best thing for our British guys who are trying to develop also. So I think it's important to have a guy, if he's going to be your enforcer, that he can play hockey like Keith and like I said, Westgarth can play. He's not a bad player.
Just one more question in regards to this city and the pressures of playing for and coaching in this city. You've done both. With coaching, you've a number of years behind the bench. Playing, your number hangs in the NIC. Considering that the Nottingham Panthers went so long without winning that league championship before Corey Nielsen picked it up, are the pressures really great? Because you think about the playoffs are held at the NIC, and you've got so many fans there, so many home fans there, and you don't want things to happen like, I don't know, a goal being scored by London with 0.2 seconds left on the clock. but you don't want. But the pressure on as a Nottingham Panthers coach in the city must be quite high, considering it's so high profile within the city.
Yeah, very high. I mean, and you think about that goal. I remember being on the bench, and I was like, "Oh, did that just happen?" I mean, it was like, it was the worst, one of the worst feelings you could have as a coach, and yeah, it was disappointing for sure because we played quite well overall to get to that point, and just to lose it in the last less than a second was heartbreaking. For sure, and there is a lot of pressure as the head coach of the Panthers, and it's the same thing though for the Giants or for the Steelers because you're expected to win a trophy every year. I mean, you're the three biggest clubs who have the biggest budgets, so you're expecting to win some silverware. So the pressure on the coach is always going to be there. I have to be honest. I always found more pressure as a coach than I did as a player because as a player you're out there and you're not thinking about it so much. As a coach, it's so much more mental, obviously, because you're not playing. So there's more pressure as a coach for sure, and there is pressure, lots of pressure to be the head coach in Nottingham. As the main question.
John, open it up.
Yeah. So, any questions from the floor for Paul? Don't be shy.
Oh, we got one. Action Jackson, straight in there. Good man, guy.
Well, it's just a quick question about the Belfast Giants. Do you think now that Claude Callum's moved on and Steve Thornton's head of hockey operations, is that too much for one man to do, the killer job and the head coach job?
Well, yes, I do. I think it's too much. I'm not saying you can't do it. I feel that I know, having obviously been a head coach, how much thinking you need to put into the job. And I think if you're also doing the GM work on top of that, I don't know if you always have time to do all the work you need to do. So I would think it is a tough job to do both. And I think your chances are better to win trophies if you just have a head coach doing the job. So you're absolutely right. It is too much, and I think it should be just one guy doing the coaching job, not both jobs.
Just to follow on from that quickly, how big a coup is it for Cardiff to get Todd Kelman as general manager?
Well, I mean, Todd obviously has years of experience as a player and as a general manager, and obviously he was going there in an ownership role, so it was a big move for him. I'm sure he, regretted leaving Belfast because that's where he got his start as a GM and got the opportunity and everything. But it's about also you have to remember that players, coaches, GMs, you're making a living and you want to do the best for yourself. So he obviously felt that was the best opportunity for him moving forward. So, but yeah, the Giants obviously lost a good man in Kelman, and he's done a good job in Cardiff. He's obviously looked at, here's the rink we have, a small rink. Let's make sure we have lots of size, play physical, make it hard for teams coming in, because teams already talk about it. Oh, geez, we got to go to Cardiff. It's going to be a hard night, and that's what you want when you have a small rink. You want teams to know it's going to be a hard night.
Just picking up on that, Paul, you've obviously coached Nottingham Panthers, played for Nottingham Panthers. You've obviously coached, as everyone knows, in Belfast as well. What are the major differences between the two clubs? I had a good chat a couple of weeks ago with Seth Bennett, and he talked about the Belfast Giants under Kelman. He was saying it in a complimentary way, but saying it was like a fluffy organisation. The Giants are very much into the fan base, do a lot of these Q&A events before games, etc., etc. They're good with the fans. Is Nottingham different in many ways in that regards, or what's the major differences between the two?
I don't.
Well, I'm picking up because I see some of the comments flying around social media.
I don't really think there's a big difference with that because I know the Panthers do a lot of pub events during the week and things like that, so they get out there with the fans also and talk with the fans. I don't think there's a big difference. I actually felt more pressure when I was coaching Nottingham than I was coaching Belfast, probably because I was a player in Nottingham, so there was maybe more of an expectation of me. I don't know. But in Belfast, things went so well, so it's kind of hard to judge when things are going so well. No one ever criticized me once. Not a fan said a bad word to me. it was like the perfect season. But again, we only lost 6 games in regulation out of 52, so it's pretty hard to criticize people under those circumstances. But overall, I was treated very well in Belfast, and you know, everybody from the rink staff to the management, everyone were fantastic with me.
It's a good job you didn't bump into Davey after that second leg of the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we talk about the Challenge Cup and the playoff, but you lose on penalties in the Challenge Cup final, and you lose in OT in the playoff. I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes those results can go your way too. It's just the way things played out, and but it was, you know, 2 finals and a league championship, and the big trophy is the league championship. I mean, that's the one everyone wants. That's the major trophy, and I always figure if you win a trophy, you've had a good season, whichever trophy it is. So, I mean, that's the goal really, is to win some silverware.
Paul, with Giants winning the league by such a large margin last season, do you have any regrets, or do you feel you should have probably gone on and won a Grand Slam, because you seem so much better than everybody else?
That is 4 trophies for a Grand Slam.
Yeah, I mean, it always sounds easy to do. You know, I always shoulda, woulda, coulda, and all this. I mean, that's, for me, though, that's kind of like, not from your point of view, obviously, but when I hear people saying that, should have done this, should have done that, it's kind of an excuse coming from them, I feel. You know, when you're dealing every day with the practices and the games and the situations right there and then, it's a different thing altogether. And you know, you always want to win everything, you know, but it doesn't happen very often. How many slams have you seen in the league? I mean, there's only been 1 Grand Slam, I think, with all 4 trophies, and I'm sure, you know, that was the Euros in Sheffield. But if you look at the teams that have won the Slam, I think Ayr maybe has won 1. The Panthers have won 1, and Coventry has won 1. So, but if you look at since as far back as 1980, hasn't been that many teams to win everything. And there's a fine line, as we saw last year. You know, a shootout and an OT loss. So yeah, we were a couple of you know, inches away from a Slam last year, but just didn't happen for us.
Any other questions? And stuff.
Just what do you think about an announcer?
Hooray!
I mean, Gary, you know, when I think he always gets, let's be honest, he gets a hard time from the fans, whatever he does. So I know Steve Machin, who did it for a lot of years. He's missing it. I ran into him recently, and I've known Steve for a long time, and he obviously misses that because he always enjoyed coming down. But his mother's been, his parents have been fairly ill, so he decided he'd prefer to spend more time with them, look after them. So. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. You know, I've never been a GM, but I know as a player, as a player and a coach, you just can't keep everybody happy. You know, so I know they're harder jobs than what the fans think. You know, but obviously, if you're saying there's obviously something, maybe there's something you want to tell me that he did that was.
I just think he's doing a great job. He's only been using microphones since about 1976.
Well, it's interesting because Gary, when I first met Gary, he used to come down and interview me with the Panthers because he was working for radio, and so I've known him for a lot of years. And to be honest, from the get-go, when Gary used to come down and interview me, he was always very fair as a radio guy, and he never really made it difficult for you. He made it easy for you to do the interview. So he was kind of a pleasure, to believe it or not, to do interviews with. So he is quite good on the microphone. I think some people. I think the complaint was he was a bit loud. Is that what you're telling me? Just a little.
I'm going to be fair now. So he did come and use the media training to the Australia, so he did a good job there as well. So.
Yeah, I think sometimes he doesn't get credit for the good things that he does, you know. So, but it's like I'm saying, it's hard to keep everybody happy, especially in that position.
Michael, do you have a question down the back?
Is it the referee's discretion to use Rule 53 whenever suits?
Rule 53 was last night's rule in regards to penalty shots, and the fact that the penalty shots after 3 the order was swapped around.
That is the rule. You switch to rotation.
That's never been used.
Well, I'm not sure if it's never been used. Every game that I've done, that's the way it was done. It was done. I know, especially when I was in Italy and Switzerland, places like that, they always switch that's the IHF rule, obviously, which it should be that way. I think that's the right way to do it. I know it actually had a big impact on the game because Nottingham got to shoot first in the OT. And yeah, if you score, it gives you the upper hand. But if you miss, then But for me, the goal from Farmer was incredible because he has to score, and he goes in a guy who you wouldn't expect. Give Corey Nelson credit. I don't think I was up in the box and everyone was going, "What's Farmer doing taking the penalty shot?" Right? I mean, a lot of people thought that, but obviously, when you're coaching a team and you see them in practice every day, you see something from your players. And I think Corey Nelson saw Farmer with a good move. Maybe that's his only move, but it's a good one. And he went in and scored a big goal. That's under a lot of pressure. For me, hats off to Farmer because I've been in those positions before, and it's the toughest position you could be in, shooting to keep your team in it. And so really, he won, in my opinion, although he didn't score the winner there in the shootout, but he won the game for the Panthers, in my opinion.
Typified his season.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a good season, Farmer. I mean,
he's been absolutely awesome. He showed there.
Yeah, and he's getting, what
you say, he went and won that game.
Yeah, he's getting better and better. Like this year, he's improved slowly throughout the season, and he can only get better, obviously, because I think he plays that physical game and he gets in your face and all that. But when he stops doing that and plays hockey, he can also play a good game. And I think he showed that last night. He was the difference last night in a lot of situations.
I think one of the comments from the back, where we were standing at the back of the Giants block, as Farmer was playing. Farmer, as well, as you say, have been absolutely phenomenal every time we see him play, but he does have that agitation role as well. I think the amount of times we said, would somebody just dig him in the face and just get done with it, because he just needed to quiet him down. But when you don't quiet him down, he is one of the real British talents in this league at the moment.
Well, especially Farmer, though, what I've seen from him this year is when something's happened on the ice, he's been one of the first guys to step in and fight for his team, and he's stepped in against some pretty big, tough guys too. So you have to give him credit for that. I recently, one of the teams ran the Nottingham goalie, and then he turned around and hit their goalie and got in a fight. So he has been doing the things for his team to help them win. And anytime you're willing to fight for your team on top of playing a good game, I think that's a big bonus. And you have to give him credit, because last night he showed us all with that move he made that he's not just an instigator, that he has some ability there too to play a good game of hockey.
Beautiful goal was as well.
I think for me as well, about Farmer, just talking, I fully agree. I think for me he's been our player of the season, and he's only 23, and it seems like he's been around for 10 years, but there's obviously so much more to come from him as well. And obviously from a Panthers point of view, I hope that's in a Panthers jersey. But with him being 23, like I say, there's just so much more to come.
On that point, with regards to Farmer, he's obviously given it a good few goes to trying to make it over in North America, as have a few British players. And since the advent of the Elite League, a lot of these British players are getting better, slowly but surely. We have been developing a lot better talent. At which point do you think we see a British player actually going into the North America and making a real run of it?
That's a tough question. I mean, it's such a tough ride in North America when you go and you play 70, 80 games regular season, and then you got to place another possible 20 in the playoffs. I mean, it's a different league altogether. I think there's some guys who could probably go and do it now. I think Lee for Nottingham on defense could play in the East Coast League. I don't see why not. He's good enough. And I'm sure there's some other guys. But also, when you go play in the East Coast League, the guys don't make big salaries. I mean, they probably would make less than what they make here. So for them to leave and leave home and go on their own, living somewhere they don't know anybody, sometimes the best option for them is just to stay here and play. And they've all grown up watching this league, and so that's probably what their goal was as a young player, was to play in the top British league, which is the Elite League. Their goal maybe hasn't been so much to go to North America to play. I think if you're going to go to North America, your goal has to be, I want to try to go there to get to the NHL. Just to go there for the experience, I don't think that always works. So that's my take on that.
Do you ever see a British trained player making it to the NHL? And he'd say within the next 10 years?
Well, I think it's all about development, and it's a big step to get into the NHL. It's hard. I mean, I don't know any better than anybody else if there's going to be a British player to come through who can make it to the NHL. I think what happens is for the British players is there's a bit of a lack of competition in their younger years, so they don't develop the same as a Canadian player would in Canada. And also what they have in Canada and even in the US, they have the college system in the US and they have the major junior system in Canada. Most of the players go to the NHL from those leagues. It's a very high level of junior hockey, and I think what they're missing in the UK is a good junior league, or even a league for players from the age of, let's say, even if it wasn't a junior league, from 18 to 22 or something, to give these young players, higher competition, especially a junior league that you can maybe start to compare it to what they do in Canada. That's what's missing, in my opinion. So if a player from the UK could be developed in the UK and then go play in the NHL at some point, at the moment I think it's a big ask.
Let's try to start to wrap this up with regards to looking at tonight's game. We're only just over an hour away from face-off in the NIC, Andy. Both teams, I think, last night would have wanted to put a marker down and say, let's go for it here, and especially coming into this game. It going the way it did and going all the way to penalty shots, what are you expecting from tonight?
I'm actually expecting a slight reverse on what we saw last night. I think Panthers will come out harder than Belfast. As much as Belfast will want to set a tone, and they're going to be pretty angry with the way the result turned out, I expect to see Panthers forecheck a lot more. Maybe start the game not looking for the pretty plays, but getting the puck in deep and just turning the defence round. I expect to see people like Boxall and Farmer, Benedict, really dictating the play early on. I think eventually, it will even itself out. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be one-way traffic at all. Both teams went through the exact same physical levels yesterday. Both sides took hits, both sides skated hard. So I don't think it'll be as fast-paced. I do think it will be as physical. I imagine at some point somebody will snap. And whether
Westgarth.
Well, to be fair, I'd like to see it. But I expect it to be probably slightly more physical, perhaps, but slightly less skillful.
Yeah. How important is the 2 points for you guys in your season now? I mean, is it imperative that you get 2 points tonight, or will another point be enough?
Another point's always welcome in the NIC, yes, for certain, but I think 2 points is what we'll have to set our game plan out to win. The conference is a big title to win, and don't get me wrong, see if Panthers win it this year, there'll be rings made, there'll be t-shirts being sold, commemorative DVD, and you'll probably buy them all. But the key to winning the conference is a better seeding position also for the playoffs. So that is still a big trophy to be won there. I think the keys to tonight for the Giants, we've got to win the battle in our own defensive zone, chip the puck out, get there, and win the neutral zone. We've got good enough forwards to win the game. We can get the puck deep in behind the Panthers. Kowalski still only just back from injury. Let's get on top of him. Let's maybe give him a wee boop. And we need the upper physical play from last night, and we need to counteract what the Panthers have in abundance, and what we don't have is speed. Mosey, Lago, Doucette, all really fast against the D, which is a year older than the D that won the championship last season. You got at us very easy last night. Long stretch passes. We're making bad line changes. We're line changing on the back check and leaving it wide open. Kowalski's very good stick. Long stretch passes from Kowalski 2-3 times in the last period last night. So we've got to be really careful on our transition play, going line changes, big element of the game. And I've said it a few times in the podcast, we have to worry about the Belfast Giants. If we go out and we can put our stamp on a game, I still believe there's not a team in this league that fits us.
One of the things you've been saying, you said several times, is how you seem to be behind the 8 ball from the start because you're losing the first goal. So how important is that first goal tonight?
Well, the stats don't lie. I think leading after the first period this season, we're something like 13-1. So it's important for us to come out and win the first period. traditionally we go on to win games when we jump out the lead. We're a team that this year has struggled. I think last year a few times when we got behind, we had the big players like Jeff Swayze who could go into the locker room in the period and lift the team, say let's get out here boys and let's get this back, and we came back and we crushed teams in second and third periods, set the trap up, come and score past us again, and it just didn't happen. This season we don't have that team. There's times we're coming out really, really flat for whatever reason, and the players have spoke about it themselves, going, we're raved up, we're nearly kicking the changing room doors off, and we'll go out on the ice and just, so it's critical that the players buy into what they know how important today is. Today is one of the most important days of our season.
Paul, your take on how this game would go, especially considering last night and how both teams are really chasing these points?
Well, if you look at to Braehead losing, I think both teams are going to approach this game smart. I mean, if you go play overly physical, then sometimes you take too many penalties, and that can put you behind the game. And if you're too aggressive on the forecheck, sometimes you get caught out on 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, and you take some goals that way too. So I'm expecting both teams. Had one of the teams not got any points last night, then I would expect maybe them to change. But with the way the game went, I think both teams are probably going to stick to what works for them, and just see how the game goes, and then maybe change, be more aggressive in certain areas if they fall behind by a couple of goals. But as long as it's a close game, I think we're going to see a bit of the same as what we saw last night, and it should be another close game. The one thing though, Panthers have the younger team. Will they have more legs? That'll be could be a factor in the third period. We'll have to see. But I expect it to be another close game, and who knows with Braehead, because like I said, they haven't won any trophies, and the pressure's really on them now. They're starting to feel it, and when they play Hull and Dundee, these teams are still in Edinburgh. They're fighting for a playoff spot, so there's no easy games left for them. Although, okay, the teams aren't as good as the opposite conference, but still, they're going to have to. I kind of look at it and I think if someone could win, 6-8 in a row, whoever that might be, then that could make the difference. Because if I think back to last year where we went like 17 games without a loss and then another 11 games without a loss, it was those streaks that won us the championship. And I think that's what's been missing this year, that one team hasn't really stepped forward and gone on a long streak. And if one of these teams obviously can get that momentum, get those wins going, I think, obviously they'll win the championship.
As we say, that's a really good point you make with regards to coming in and being a younger team. Coach, the Giants last night at times looked dead on their feet. Really, they're not playing with that 10th forward. They've mixed up the lines a bit, and they put everything into that match and only came away with the point. So stamina is a big thing tonight.
Yeah, it's been one of the major things I think a lot of the Belfast Giants fans have talked about this season is all of a sudden the guys are just that year older, and it was already called a veteran team last year. A couple of players, one guy in particular that was a stalwart for Paul and the Belfast Giants last year at the back and dovetailed beautifully with Elfring was Cody Brookwell. And he's just not having the same season at all for the Belfast Giants. You've been ultra critical of Brookwell. He's still got 2 more goals than Mark McCutcheon this season. But anyway, say no more. So for Sandrock has put up massive. I think Sandrock is in around a point a game, which is unbelievable for a defenseman in this league. But he was at fault for first goal, gave away a silly penalty, which led to the Panthers' power play third goal, I think, last night. Sandrock just has been coughing the puck up a lot in his own end this season, and we're not used to seeing that. I mean, Robbie is one of the best offensive defensemen in the entire Elite League. So I think defensively, the Belfast Giants have been a wee bit at 6s and 7s this year. Doesn't help when Stephen Murphy goes down injured 6-8 weeks into the season. Big transition, bringing in the likes of Carson Chubak, who's done well for us. He has done well. I thought he was excellent last night as well. But I think it would be safe to say that we're going to see a few changes. Certainly for next season, I wouldn't be surprised to see at least one change coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Do you have any more questions from the audience? Any you want to direct at any of us? Or?
You've got Westlife here, come on. They're going to stand up for a key change in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
There's so many other questions. Can I just ask an off-ice question? Do you think it's appropriate for the referees to be tweeting about what's happening in the crowd?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I think this comes down to, I think, Tom Darnell mentioning last night.
I think a douche, quote unquote.
Yeah, Yeah, he got a bit of stick from somebody in Block 9 last night, and Tom came off the ice and sent out a tweet basically calling the guy a douche and all this type of stuff. I think he was getting a few offensive gestures put towards him, was Tom, but he came out on Twitter and threw it out there for everyone to see.
I mean, I don't think you should say anything. That's my opinion. I think you have to be the better man, if you want to put it that way, and just take whatever criticism you get and leave it at that. Because if you're going to be a referee, you know you're going to get criticized no matter what. You can't keep both sets of fans happy. The losing side normally have a few complaints, and same thing, with the players and the coach. So for the referee, he's in a tough situation there every night. And I think, players should be careful what they, tweet also. Myself, I've never done it. I have no interest in doing it. I don't want to get involved with that, So I think you have to be really careful. I think you just have to stay out of it and accept the criticism. That's the job you're doing, and it's going to happen. And sometimes it's better just like I know last year, I don't think I read a thing on the internet the whole year. I just focused in on my job and didn't let anything get into my head. And I think that's the best thing to do. Today, I mean, I've seen players, honestly, and I don't like it, and if I do see it, I would obviously have words with them, but seeing guys between periods try to get on their phones to do things, and it's really something that I think is very unprofessional. So, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely, I know what you're kind of saying. Do you think somebody should be doing that? No, absolutely not. I think you should just stay out of it. You're going to get criticized. I mean, if I did that, if I complained every time someone had criticized me as a player, as a coach, or I would have been probably in lots of trouble, if I would have let some of the things I wanted to say out. But you just, you have to realize it's emotional for the fans also during the game. They're into the game. They're emotional, just like you are. So you have to understand that from their perspective.
Any more questions?
In that case, first of all, I'll have to thank Jono, Ali and Aaron for inviting us over to join you on stage. Thanks to Paul Adey for joining us. I think we all appreciate that. We give a round of applause to Paul.
I want to say a big thank you to you guys for accepting the invitation and coming on with us, because you've done this before and we haven't, so it would have been terrible if it had just been us. But I just want to say big thank you for you taking the time out, come down early and come and watch us and listen to some hockey chat. So really appreciate you turning out, so thank you very much.
And don't forget, we've still got tickets. £2 for a bus and 3 for a fiver. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. Cheers.